Welcome back to Silent Stories Updates, where real moments become unforgettable journeys. Today's story is one of freedom, frustration, and a gate that finally closed on years of control. So sit back, relax, and let me take you into a world where standing up for yourself becomes the most powerful choice of all. The day I locked my new iron gate for the first time, I didn't know that the sound of that metal clicking shut would echo across the valley, like a declaration of independence. I also didn't expect it to trigger the meltdown of the decade from the one person I thought I had finally escaped forever. But that was before I learned that some people don't let go easily. Some people don't know how. For years, I lived in a tightly controlled HOA neighborhood. You know the kind. Perfect lawns trimmed to identical lengths. Driveways free of anything that even looked like clutter. The kind of place where every house looked like it had been copied and pasted from the same catalog. When I first moved in, I thought I was stepping into a peaceful community. People smiled, waved, and welcomed me with brochures about community harmony. But I didn't realize yet that harmony meant obeying rules that felt more like chains. And standing at the center of those chains was Karen. Karen wasn't just the HOA president. No, she was the self-appointed sheriff of the entire place. She had a clipboard that looked like it was glued to her hand, and a voice that could cut through concrete. She treated the neighborhood like her personal kingdom, and the rest of us were unwilling citizens under her watchful eye. It didn't take long for the complaints to start. The first came a week after I moved in. Apparently, the shade of white I chose for my porch trim wasn't the correct shade of approved white. I didn't even know white came in approved categories. But Karen did, and she let me know it in a 3-page letter attached to a picture of my trim, with circles drawn around the offensive areas. Next came the issue with my car. My tires were 2 inches over the imaginary line separating my driveway from the street. 2 inches. She measured it with a tape measure. While I was inside eating lunch, I found out when I opened the door to take out the trash, and she was standing there like a human ruler, scolding me for violating the sacred guidelines. And of course, the bird feeder incident. I thought I was doing something good for the local wildlife, a simple wooden feeder hanging from a branch in my backyard. But according to Karen, it was a wildlife hazard that threatened the delicate balance of the neighborhood ecosystem. I didn't even know the neighborhood had an ecosystem. I thought we just had squirrels. But the final straw came when I planted the small fruit trees in my backyard. I imagined picking fresh peaches one day, maybe baking a pie like my grandmother used to make. 3 days later, I received a letter demanding the trees be removed because they were not part of the approved vegetation list. I stood there, holding that letter, and felt something inside me break. It wasn't the trees. It wasn't the rules. It was the realization that I wasn't living a life. I was following a script written by someone else. Someone who believed control was the same thing as order. Someone who believed that her power mattered more than my peace. That night, I made a decision. I was done. I spent months searching for something different, something open, something real, and then I found it. 50 acres of wild, beautiful, untouched land in our outside town. A place where pine trees danced with the wind. A place where the air felt cleaner, softer, freer. A place without an HOA, without restrictions. Without Karen, I bought it faster than I've bought anything in my life. The paperwork wasn't even dry before I started packing. I told no one. I didn't owe anyone an explanation, especially not the woman who had turned daily life into a checklist of restrictions. I loaded my truck in silence, closed the door to my old house, took one last look at the cookie-cutter neighborhood, and drove away without regret. But Karen noticed. 2 weeks later, on a quiet morning, I was out on my land installing a large cedar gate I had built myself. The gravel road leading into the property was long, winding, and private. I had spent days designing the gate, sanding it, staining it, and preparing the iron lock that would secure it. It felt symbolic, a real, physical barrier between my old life and my new one. And then I heard it. The sound of tires crunching gravel at high speed. Karen's silver SUV appeared at the bend like a furious storm cloud. She didn't slow down until she reached the gate. When she got out, her face was red, and her eyes looked like they were about to shoot lasers. "So this is where you ran off to?" She yelled. I didn't stop working. I tightened another bolt and said calmly, Karen, why are you here? You didn't file the proper exit forms, she snapped. You didn't notify the HOA board. And you certainly didn't complete the mandatory property inspection. You can't just leave without approval. I set my tools down and faced her. Karen, I don't live there anymore. I don't answer to you. She blinked, stunned, like the concept was physically painful. You can't put up a gate blocking this road, she insisted. What if I need to check something on behalf of the HOA? I almost laughed. You don't have jurisdiction here. You have no authority. This is my land. She stepped toward the property line, trying to walk past me. I moved in front of her, firm but calm. You need to leave, I said. Now, her face twisted with disbelief. She wasn't used to being told no. She wasn't used to being powerless. She stared at the land, taking in the vastness of it. 50 acres. A place too big for her control to reach. You'll regret this, she hissed. You think this makes you untouchable? You think you can lock me out? I grabbed the iron lock, slid it into place, and let it click shut. The sound echoed through the trees. I already did, I said. She shook the gate, screamed something incoherent, stormed back to her SUV, and sped away in a cloud of dust. I thought that would be the end. I was wrong. Over the next few weeks, she tried everything. She called the county and claimed I was blocking a public road. The county came out, checked the maps, and informed her that the entire road was on my private land. She filed a complaint saying my gate violated neighborhood safety standards. They reminded her this wasn't a neighborhood. She even brought the HOA president to try and flex her influence. He took one look at the situation and practically dragged her back to the car, embarrassed. Each attempt failed. Each one ended with her being told she had no rights there. Meanwhile, I was thriving. I woke up to birds instead of lawn blowers. I planted 10 fruit trees instead of 2. I built a workshop where no one cared how tall it was or what color the roof had to be. I carved trails through the woods. I watched sunsets that looked like paintings. For the first time in years, I felt alive. Then one afternoon, as I was repairing the fence near the pond, I saw Karen's SUV parked outside the gate again. But this time, she wasn't yelling. She wasn't stomping. She was just sitting there. I approached slowly. Karen, what now? She didn't look at me at first. When she finally did, her voice was quiet. I don't get it, she said. What don't you get? How you can just walk away from everything. From the rules. From the structure. From the community. I leaned against the gate. Because I had to. I wasn't living. I was complying. She hesitated. I wasn't trying to hurt anyone. But you weren't trying not to either, I replied gently. For the first time, she didn't argue. She didn't threaten fines. She didn't bring up guidelines or violations. She just nodded, got back in her car, and drove away. That was the last time she ever came. Months passed. My land became home. The trees grew. My workshop filled with projects. I learned things about myself I never knew. I lived without being monitored. Without being corrected, without being controlled. One evening, sitting on the hill, watching the sun dip behind the pines, I realized something. That gate wasn't just a barrier. It was a beginning. A reminder that sometimes you have to shut something out to let something better in. A reminder that choosing peace is an act of strength. A reminder that stepping away from control doesn't make you rebellious, it makes you free. I didn't just buy 50 acres. I bought my life back. And no one, not even Karen, could ever lock me in again.